This is the story of Dan Cooper, or DB. Cooper, the man who hijacked a plane in 1971, parachuted out of it in the middle of the night and was never seen again. It's one of America's most famous unsolved mysteries, and today we are covering it. On November 24, 1971, a man boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 at Portland International Airport. He paid for his ticket in cash. He identified himself only as Dan Cooper. He wore a black suit, a black tie, and sunglasses. His seat assignment was 18C, window seat. Just an ordinary passenger, except he wasn't. Because as soon as the plane took off over the forests of Oregon, he did something that would make headlines around the world. We don't know exactly when it happened, but it was about 3:05 p.m. when Cooper leaned over and handed the flight attendant a note. This is what it said. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Now Cooper didn't show the attendant a weapon, and he didn't make any demands. He just slid the note across the table and calmly sipped his drink. When the plane reached cruising altitude, the flight attendant opened the note. Her name was Florence Schaff, by the way. That's how she'll be known throughout this video. She read the note and her eyes grew wide. She looked back at Cooper. He was staring straight ahead, seemingly unfazed. She had a choice to make: follow instructions or take action. She chose to follow instructions. She called the other attendants over, and together they wrote down everything Cooper had said. They passed the list to the man sitting next to Cooper. He was asked to memorize it. Once he had it all in his head, he was asked to get up and leave the plane. This was the list of Cooper's demands: $200,000 in $20 bills, 4 parachutes, 1 for each of the 4 attendants, and a fuel truck waiting for them at the airport in Seattle. In exchange, he'd release the 364 passengers and crew members on board. With the list memorized, the man left the aircraft. By now, everyone on board knew there was a bomb somewhere close by. The man joined the rest of the passengers and waited. Not long after, the pilot turned on the intercom. He told everyone that due to mechanical problems, they were turning back to Portland. The passengers and crew thought nothing of it. Little did they know the plane was being diverted to Seattle so Cooper could get what he wanted. By the time the plane landed, word had gotten out. The FBI and local police were waiting. Cooper handed the pilot a note saying he had 45 minutes to bring everything he wanted, or he'd blow up the plane. The pilots agreed to wait. The authorities brought in the cash, the parachutes, even the fuel truck. What they didn't bring was a hostage negotiator. The pilots were the ones who had to deal with Cooper, and they weren't your average pilots. They were highly experienced, cool heads, both of them. Captain William Boeing, yes, like the airplane company, had flown 21,000 hours in his career. First Officer Bill Ratajczak had 6,000 hours under his belt. Cooper stayed calm and polite. He walked down the aisle shaking hands with everyone, thanking them for their cooperation. He showed no signs of aggression, made no threats. The pilots hoped he wouldn't try anything funny. When they got to Seattle, they were going to take Cooper into custody. They taxied up to the door where the ransom was waiting. Cooper signaled for the ramp to be lowered. He ordered the passengers and crew to stay put. Then he stepped out onto the ramp, grabbed the package containing the money, checked the parachutes were there too, then disappeared up the stairs and back onto the plane. He motioned for the passengers to leave. Everyone filed out one by one and made their way off the plane. As soon as the last person left, Cooper closed the door, buckled himself in, and told the pilots to start the engines. He instructed them to fly to Mexico City, which was odd. Why would someone who'd just robbed $200,000 go to Mexico City? Was he planning on robbing another plane? Or was he planning on crossing the border and disappearing into Mexico? The pilots had no idea. All they knew was that Cooper was now in charge. He'd taken over the plane, and he intended on going somewhere far away. As the plane picked up speed, Cooper spoke to the pilots. He told them he had a bomb in a briefcase beside him. He told them he meant business. He told them he didn't want to hurt anyone. Then he went quiet. The captain got on the radio and contacted air traffic control. He told them he had a possible hijacking on board. They tried to keep it quiet. After all, no one was in danger yet. But if Cooper set off the bomb, people would die. So the captain decided to take a chance. He asked them to scramble 2 F-86 Sabres and have them intercept the plane. But before the fighters could get close, Cooper opened the side window and jumped. He was wearing a suit. He had a briefcase full of money beside him. He had a parachute on his back. What he didn't have was a life, at least not one that anyone knows about. The plane continued its journey to Mexico City. Cooper was gone. Now, this might seem like the end of the story. If he jumped out of a plane and fell to his death, well, that's that. But this isn't the end of the story. This is actually the beginning of part 2, because after Cooper vanished into the night, the plane flew on to Mexico City and landed without incident. In fact, the passengers and crew were given $1,000 each and told to keep quiet about what had happened. Why? Well, it was the 1970s, and the government didn't want people getting ideas. Hijackings were becoming more common. Authorities didn't want word getting around that you could steal $200,000 and get away with it. So everyone kept quiet. Even the FBI was reluctant to investigate. It was only when the media found out what had happened that they got involved. They wanted to solve this case, and they wanted to solve it fast. They searched everywhere. They followed every lead. They interrogated everyone involved. And still, after all these years, they have no answers. What happened to Cooper? Did he survive the jump? Did he land safely and run off into the night? Or did he plummet to his death and take the money with him? We may never know the answer. But here's what we do know. He was seen by several people after he left the plane. One of those people was in the cabin of the plane. She was taking photos of passengers. It was a job perk. She developed the film. Later, when she looked through the pictures, one caught her eye. It was a photo of Cooper sitting in his seat, but he was alone. She'd taken the photo seconds before he jumped. Another person who saw Cooper was a young girl. She lived near the airport and she was playing in the woods. That night, she heard a noise. She described it as someone landing heavily in the trees, the sound of breaking branches. But perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence came 9 years later. A boy was exploring an old logging area in the Columbia River when he found something unusual, a small pile of dirty $20 bills sticking out from under a log. He picked them up, turned them over, and was surprised to find they were part of the ransom. It seems almost certain that Cooper survived the jump, but why didn't he try and collect the reward? Well, maybe he was dead. Maybe he was injured. Maybe he just wanted to disappear. Whatever the reason, the FBI never found him. They never even found his body. So let's take a moment to speculate. Where is Cooper now? Well, he would be 83 years old today, which makes us wonder, where is he? Is he retired somewhere in Mexico? Does he have a family? Or has he been dead for years? Here's another question. Do you think Cooper survived the jump? Let us know in the comments. Today, the case remains officially unsolved. No one knows what happened to Cooper or the money. In 2016, though, the FBI finally closed the case, which means they stopped actively looking for answers. But the public hasn't stopped searching. There are dozens of theories out there. Cooper faked his death. Cooper died in the crash. Cooper lives in Mexico. The reality is, no one knows. All we can say for sure is that on November 24, 1971, a man named Dan Cooper hijacked a plane, parachuted out of it and disappeared. He became known as DB. Cooper, one of America's most famous criminals and one of the world's greatest mysteries. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, check out our other videos on infamous criminals.